The entire morning has been a series of events like that. So let's start again, shall we? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Satsang again. And that was also the very best beginning of a discourse I've ever given, so it's gone. I'm afraid you're going to get the second-rate one now. Anyway, I gave this one a name, the ultimate sadhana, because I want to bring people's attention to the culmination, the ultimate of spiritual practice. Those of you who aren't familiar with the term sadhana, it's simply the Sanskrit word for spiritual practice, whether that be yoga, meditation, chanting the names of God, bowing, pilgrimages, mantra, no matter what it is, it's designed to bring you closer to God. But remember, God is not the ultimate other. God is a word for the self. It is your true being. It is the you have forgotten you are, and assumed this character, which is identification with the body, and then assumed all sorts of qualities and characteristics. Somebody texting me about hearing me. I'm sure you can hear me now, yeah? Just to make sure, once again, make sure everything's working. Keep the sound high. Yes, we're good. We're good now. What's the ultimate spiritual practice? Every spiritual practice will bring you to a certain point, but every spiritual practice eventually culminates. It has an end. It's got a specific purpose. It serves that purpose, and then once it's fulfilled that purpose, it's time to move on. It's time to go to the next thing. But there is an ultimate. Spiritual practice isn't something that goes on forever. It has a very definite goal, and that goal is Mahayoga, or the ultimate reunion, bringing you back to who you actually are. And that practice is simply abiding as. It is being that. Because here's the deal. You are the self. Right? You can't become it. Right? You are it. The spiritual practice, for most in spiritual seeking, it's an attempt to improve ourselves, to make ourselves better, to make ourselves more compassionate, more wise, more patient, all the virtuous qualities. And obviously, I'd certainly much rather have people exuding those qualities than their opposite. Right? But there's still a sense of somebody on the path, somebody trying to get somewhere. Remember, if the truth is true, it's always true. If it's even remotely possible that you can be the self at some point, that you'll realize that you are the self, it must be true now. No matter what your mind is telling you, no matter what your experience has been, no matter what you've been taught, you are the self. It is a realization, not an attainment. Somebody once asked the Buddha, "Have you attained? And you attained enlightenment?" And he said, "I cannot say that I have attained because I have attained." Now that sounds kind of weird. It sounds kind of esoteric, but I think you can get it. Because there's been no real attainment. It appears that way, right, as the false drops away and the true reveals itself. It's like when the clouds go away and you see the sun, it's not that the sun came out. We use those terms, right? The sun is out. Now, it's always there, right? We're either turned towards it or away from it, or there's something that appears to be blocking it, but it's always there. You are the truth. You are the self. And to abide as that is to simply bring your thoughts into conformity with that. when the thought comes up that about seeking, I've got to get somewhere, I've got to do something, I'm going to attain at some point, you realize, no, that thought assumes I'm separate from who I really am, and it's impossible to be separate from who I really am, even if I don't know it. Even if every thought in my head is denying it, that can't change the truth. The truth is not affected by beliefs. The truth is not touched by anything we believe. It remains absolutely inviolate. It cannot be undone. It's the bell that cannot be unrung. And so it's a matter of simply abiding as that, right? Live it, right? Act like that's the case. Nisargadatta once said, you have all the self-realization you need, but you don't trust it. Right? Come to trust it. Come to trust it because not just because I say so, but because every single saint and sage in all history has said this. Right? It's not just one guy's opinion, right? Some funny guy on YouTube. This is the essential message. It's the essential message of the Upanishad, of Buddhism, of Christian mysticism, of Advaita Vedanta. It is the message, right? No, you're not who you think you are. You are the self. So when you're doing your dishes, right? It is the self doing the dishes. When you sit to meditate and do a practice, it is the self doing the practice. Right? You worship consciousness itself as if it were God, because consciousness is God. Consciousness is the ultimate. Right? And you don't even have to try to understand what consciousness and ponder over what it means. You're conscious. It's a fact. It's your every moment fact. It's your every second experience. Right? That consciousness is the self. Right? And we're simply clearing away everything that denies that. No matter what has happened in the past, no matter what you've done in the past, right? One of the most horrific people in the entire world and you did all sorts of nasty things, it doesn't change it, right? It is the conditioning that does the nasty things, not you. You've never done anything wrong, and nothing wrong has ever been done to you. Right? It's simply coming to see that, to have faith in it, right? To have faith that what I'm telling you is true, right? And you wouldn't be here if something inside of you didn't say, this feels true. You simply wouldn't show up at a place like this. You simply wouldn't read spiritual books. You wouldn't be seeking with your whole heart. Right? But even the seeking culminates in this ultimate sadhana of simply recognizing that seeking is happening. It was an absolutely necessary step. Right? But ultimately, I am already what I am seeking. And then that seeking really turns inward, to begin to simply be it, to start assuming that you are that, right? Rather than it's a destination you have to get to, right? It's like the wave on the ocean on its spiritual trek, trying to find the ocean. You are the ocean, right? This form and these words and thoughts and experiences are the wave on the ocean, right? But they are also the ocean. Even the waves on the ocean of bliss are bliss. So there's nothing wrong with any of this. There's nothing wrong with the experience. It's not something you have to escape from. You have to just simply abide as that from which everything originated. Let your sense of self be the ocean, and then let the waves of the ocean be the experience of your life. And it will harmonize what's going on in your life. Because all the conflict in our lives is coming from the identification with a small self, identification with the body and all of the conditioning and all those characteristics. The identification with that is what has given rise to the sense of limitation and smallness and struggle, and it creates conflict between people, it creates conflict in relationships, because it's two false selves, two sets of conditioned patterns just bumping into each other. As you disidentify with that and identify more and more with who you are consciously, it's the last practice you need. And yes, it'll be there. There'll be a sense of being a separate self that will pop up. But if you realize that it's just a sense, it's a thought and a feeling, and not the truth, you can take refuge. Yeah, as it says in the Heart Sutra, that the Bodhisattva takes refuge in the Prajnaparamita, which is the wisdom that takes you to the other side, the wisdom that recognizes that you already are what you are seeking. And that takes you beyond all of the trouble and turmoil of this world. It will. Maybe not immediately, but it will. It will take you to the other side. I guarantee it. Stake my reputation on it. for what it's worth. So, on that note, I will head over to the queue here, and I'm sure way down the queue is a bunch of things saying, gee, we can't hear you. I'm assuming you can now. Very good. All right. Jay, Hari Om, best time of the week. I agree. For me as well. Dave and Elaine, hello. Love and greetings from us both. Good to see you guys. Hi, Roberto, and there's Bob in Serbia. Liza in the Eastern Seaboard, hello to you. Robbie in Romania. Roberto, awesome 8 videos, GP. Especially the last one is something else. Thanks a lot. You're right. Yeah, you're right. That was so much fun to do, and it just happened very spontaneously. I wasn't really even thinking about it. It just kind of happened all at once, and I wrote them all pretty quickly. And I did write them out so that I could be more succinct. They were not improvised like I normally do. I actually worked them over for a while. They came very quickly, but I actually worked them over a whole bunch to get it as succinct as possible, as simple as possible, to break the whole thing down so that it could really be easily understood. So I'm glad you... And then later, I mean, because I did the 7, it even says 7 on it. Later, I realized that I had not talked about non-duality. I had kept it in the realm of simply conditioning and not really gone into the deeper aspect of it, the most important aspect of it, which is, who are you really, right? If I'm not the body, if I'm not this, if I'm not my conditioning, well then who am I? It's not, this practice isn't just completely, disposing of things, right? Something gets revealed. Right? It's just what gets revealed is not a thought. It's not a concept. It's not conditioning. But it's very real. And it's here right now. It's listening to my words right now. It's speaking these words right now. There's not really a person here speaking. Right? That's simply the functioning. There's no more an actual person here speaking than if you look up in the cloud and there's the shape of an angel, right? There's no angel there. It's a cloud. But it temporarily takes a form, and we look at that form, we say, oh, look, there's an angel. Of course, there's no angel. And if you looked at the cloud, somebody else, 10 miles that way isn't going to see anything at all. They may see a flower pot or just a puffy ball. This is the nature of everything. Everything that you experience is simply an appearance. Right? And we project on that appearance name and form. We give it an identity, and then we give it a sense of permanence, a sense of existence, right? When it doesn't have an actual existence. Only the self has existence. Self is pure existence. The self is pure being. Sat Chidananda, being, consciousness, bliss. It says in the Ribhu Gita, everything is the supreme being, which is Sat Chit Ananda. And you are that. You are the being. You are the being in life. You're the animating force of life. You're not in the body. You're not attached to the body. You're not stuck with the body. This is simply a temporary vehicle. It is a temporary appearance, like a cloud that's constantly changing shape, right? And just like a cloud, it had a beginning. It morphed into all sorts of different shapes, and then eventually, it's going to dissolve. This body is just going to dissolve. But where will I be? Right where I am now. I won't have gone anywhere because I'm not located here. And the whole function of inner reconciliation was to be a sadhana. It's a practice. It's a practice to let go of our argument with our conditioning, so that we can come, so that when we drop the argument with ourselves, it is the only way to cut through the conditioning, cut through all of the negative patterns, the limitations that have accumulated, the traumatic stuff that is accumulated and affecting our lives. But its purpose isn't primarily therapeutic. That is the side effect. Right? That's the wake on the boat. That's not where the boat is headed. The boat is headed back through all of the various kinds of beliefs and assumptions that assume you are not the self, right? And therefore are trying to protect this false sense of self as the body. That sense of wanting to protect that can be liberated, so that it doesn't need to protect anything, because you're the self. You are the beingness of all things. That's what it meant. Everything is the supreme being, which is being, consciousness, and bliss, happiness, peace, stillness. You are that. You are what is, not what appears. You're the sky, not the temporary cloud that takes the face of an angel or whatever, any kind of shape a cloud can take. So, with that said, I will take up the next question. Thank you, Roberto. Karen, why do we continue the pattern that we learn from our parents? The conditioning is how everything works, right? Every form is conditioned matter. I picked up this glass, right? The glass is silica, right? At one point it's sand, right? And then we do stuff to it, and now we get silica, right? And then silica gets put in a certain form, and now we have a jar, a glass jar, right? And I can take that glass jar, I can break it up, grind it up through a process, and I can return it to silica. Everything, every form is a temporary conditioning of essential energy, for lack of a better word. Right? And it's a very popular word now, all is energy and like that. But there's truth in it, but it's also misconceived a great deal. So as children, we are simply conditioned. We are conditioned to be a certain way, think certain thoughts, have certain aspirations. It's simply the nature of every critter on the planet. It conforms itself to its environment. And the very shape of a body is a conforming of life to the environment of life. So that's what evolution is. It's constantly morphing as the environment morphs. So there's this interaction. I mean, there's only one race, the human race. I almost knocked my screen over. There's only one race. There are not races. There's not the yellow race or the black race. They don't exist. That term was actually made up. The only difference is the physical difference that happened because of the different environments we're in. The skin is white because people migrated from Africa where it was black because it was much more resistant because there was a lot of sun, right? So it didn't need to take in as much sun, so it's resistant to that. The further north you go, there's less sun, so it needed to be able to absorb more stuff from the sun. That's it. It is a constant interaction with the environment. That's what happens to children. That's what happens to everything, right? Now, that's not a problem per se, right? Because this conditioning, that's how we can learn how to talk without having to form every word. Tie our shoes. We can dance. We can walk. I can talk and move my arms at the same time. I'm not thinking about it. That's conditioning. We learn how to dance, play piano. Right? That's all the process of conditioning. Right? But what happens is that we're conditioned into a particular pattern. But what's different about human beings than any other critter on the planet is there is an awareness of something deeper. We become self-aware. We begin to feel limitations of this conditioning, because it is a limitation. Even the best childhood is going to impose limitations on you. Right? And we inherently want to reject or resist these. We want freedom. We want to taste freedom. That is the gift of human consciousness. It reaches for freedom. Now, we don't know what it is at first. We just think it's different conditioning, or maybe better conditioning, or better circumstances. But little by little, we come to realize that there's more to me than I thought. I'm not my conditioning. This is how I was trained to be. This isn't who I am. The whole self-help movement is based on that notion that there is neuroplasticity. I'm not stuck with my DNA. I'm not stuck with my conditioning. And notice, what's required for that to happen is a conscious awareness. An awareness of the conditioning. When that happening is the first of awakening. Oh, I don't have to be like this. And little by little it grows, right? So unless that happens, right, you'll simply continue the pattern. You will just be who you were conditioned to be, right? That's why I think, why do we continue the pattern? Right. We just continue it because that's the way it is, right? You train a dog to do something and it will continue to do something. Something has to emerge in you that says, I wonder if there's more. Or, the teacher shows up and says, you're more than you think you are. You're not who you think you are. You're way, way more than that. And something inside goes, yes, I knew, damn it, I knew it. I knew it. Right? And then you get confirmation, and little by little you end up here in Satsang, where you are finding out that, oh, I'm not my conditioning. Conditioning happened. It happened to me, it happened to my family, it happened to my parents, it happened to their parents. It's just been going along. And it's only just continued to go along because we weren't awake. We were ignorant of our true selves. And just the fact you can ask that question, even that we can talk about these as a pattern, is itself an awakening, isn't it? My parents didn't talk about it as it's just the way it was. It wasn't something that was optional. It wasn't something that was conditioned, right? The whole idea of even being conditioned is relatively new in the West anyway. They understood it forever. in India, but not here. So that's why it is, and the remedy to conditioning, which is ignorance, which is simply a lack of self-awareness, would obviously be true wisdom, knowledge, self-awareness. That's what else? What else you're going to work with, right? That's it. So I hope that answers it for you, Karen. And it's big. This is huge. This is the liberation. You're being liberated from the false sense of self. And that false sense of self isn't really a self. It's nothing but conditioning. That's the thing. It's not somebody who was conditioned. Who you think you are is the conditioning. You have mistaken that which is simply a conditioned pattern, a happening, a cloud in the sky, for yourself. You think, oh, that's me. And with that thought, that's me, we get confined within that assumption. Until the teacher comes along and says, no, it's not you. It's conditioning. You're not your conditioning. You're not the body. You're not your memories. You're not your DNA. You're none of that. You are the self. And when that hits your heart, it just, you can't help but gravitate towards it. You want to move towards it. You feel the truth of it. That in you, which feels the truth of it, is itself the truth. It's your true being. That is the self calling you back home. So, does that answer it for you, Karen? Hello, Patricia in Vancouver. Annette. Hello, G. My husband and I are fighting all the time. What impact does this have on our children? Well, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want to be throwing things out there. But obviously, the atmosphere in the house can affect children negatively. They can become, peacemakers. They want to try to hold it together. They can blame themselves for it. Children do that, right? They're aware of that, and it's not. They do that because their nature, when we're little, is we want to feel safe. And when there's fighting going on, they don't feel safe. Right? It feels unstable. Right? Now, when I say that, I'm saying it as gently as I can, because nobody's to blame for this. You can't, because what'll happen then, oh my God, I'm ruining my children. And I've worked with many, many people who felt that way, that I'm ruining my children because they couldn't get it together. They're having struggles with their spouse. So first off, right, don't go there, please. Right, these things happen, right, and ultimately, your children are in the hands of God. Their destiny, what they have to experience in order to bring them to a place of awakening, is going to happen. Right? If you look at a lot of my own childhood, was horrible. Look, I'm laughing about it, right? But because it was in there that this incredible need to know the truth was given birth to. I wouldn't be doing this now. I wouldn't have needed to come to understand all of this and how it works were it not for that. Right? So was it a mistake? Yes? No? Was it... right? It's... a movie is a comedy or a tragedy. It only depends on where you put the end. There's always tragedy in every comedy, and there's always some comic relief in every tragedy. Right? Wherever it fade to black and you see the end will determine whether or not, it's a Shakespeare play and the stage is littered with bodies, or, there's that final laugh or just, heart opening in the end. Right? So it's not over. It's never over. It's a constant flow. So now what I'd say to you is what is the cause of the fighting? Right? That's what's most important, right? You can't try to just hide it or just kind of try to insulate your children from it. You can only do that so much. You really want to get, why is there discord between you and your husband? Can it be resolved? And if not, can we amicably separate it? And to do that is the best thing you can do for your children. To be totally present and honest and acknowledging what's going on, that there's a conflict there, right? To be really present to that in all honesty is the best gift you can give them. Right? There's no such thing as a perfect home. And pretending is not going to help them because kids sense it. They're sensitive to the environment. They learn way, way more from just the energy than from what is said. Right? So it behooves us all to be really present and honest in our relationships. And that means, if that's the case, the opportunity is there for genuine reconciliation and even genuine intimacy. You can fall in love again. It's possible, right? But it takes that kind of presence, right? And a willingness to really sit down honestly with your husband and say, we're struggling here. It's not good for us, it's not good for the kids, it's not good for anybody. How do we become happy? Can we become happy? Right? Sometimes there is no openness in the other person to that. So you do it for yourself. You do it with yourself. Watch the reactive patterns. The conflicts are arising out of our conditioned patterns. And oftentimes the conflict just comes because our basic human needs aren't being met. And the more conflict there is, the less they're being met because we have this need for intimate connection. It's completely natural. Now notice, I didn't put the emphasis on the children, because ultimately they're going to be okay. They're being taken care of, right? Even though there may be some rough spots, and they're going to endure some conditioning you'd rather they not have, they're going to be okay. They too are going to come to awakening. That's why they were born human. And you are part of the process by which that happens for them. So none of this is an accident. So simply be just deeply and honestly present. And that is the gift, right? To be as present with the moment as it is, even when the moment is difficult, is the greatest gift you can give. That is living the truth. That's living as love. You don't have to accept things that are not acceptable. You don't have to endure things. You don't have to be constantly in self-denial. You simply have to be present and honest with what is being felt. And I know it's not always easy. You just start with yourself. Right? You don't want that conflict in your life. Right? Now be clear about that. And so what do you need to free yourself from that conflict? Well, it always starts here. Right? It always starts in my own reactive patterns. And understanding that, that all it is somebody else's reactive patterns. And deep down, everybody wants exactly the same thing. We all want to feel loved and accepted, and we don't know how to get it. And that leads to conflict and turmoil, right? Just acknowledge that you simply want love and peace. That's what humans want. So does that help, Annette? Oh. Wow. I wish I could bring harmony to every home. Ursula in Madeira Island, hello, hello, hello. Lola, hello, Lola, hello, hello. How can the little child in me act strong and not hurt if my partner always criticizes me for everything? Well, You don't have to act strong, right? Because a little child isn't strong. That's the nature of little children, isn't it? Little children aren't strong, right? And genuine strength isn't coming from just being able to endure. It doesn't come from dominating somebody else. It doesn't come from criticizing somebody else, and that kind of, which amounts to simply emotional abuse. So you don't have to act that. It hurts, of course. When somebody you're with, especially if you're living with them, is becoming critical, right, of you, it's like, right, that's not what anybody wants. Right? I suspect that for your partner, that he or she, whatever, they were criticized. That this is a continuation. You know, when people are overly critical, they're trying to build themselves up by putting somebody else down, which is undoubtedly what happened to them. Right? They were criticized. And they finally found some place, some way in which they could make themselves be in the position to be able to criticize somebody else. It could also be you were criticized, right? And that's all you know. So now you think you have to accept it and receive it because that's all we know. This is the nature of conditioning. Now, nobody's the guilty party here. Nobody is to blame. This is simply the conditioning playing itself out. And the answer, of course, is to become conscious of it. It's criticizing you about everything. First off, you have to accept for yourself that this is not acceptable, right? This is simply not acceptable for you, right? You can't have it. Right? Now, you don't have to get defensive. You don't have to get angry about it, because that's oftentimes what we'll do, and it'll turn into a fight. If you recognize that all he's trying to do is he's trying to put himself in a superior position because he doesn't feel like he deserves one, it can open up some compassion in you, right? And at the same time, perhaps even open up the opportunity to have a conversation about it. Say, look, this is, this is not fun. Now I just want to avoid you because it's always critical. If you really don't like me that much, well, let's just go our separate ways and just, no harm, no foul. But but maybe there's something there that can work. I can't determine what the right path is for somebody, other than inward, right? How it would work out in your experience with someone else. But I do know that the more honest you are, the more you're willing to let yourself be vulnerable, right? And it's very vulnerable to just kind of put it out there. And when we are vulnerable, as little children are, it's raw, it can hurt, it can sting, right? But if we don't withdraw back into ourselves, into a protective mode, and just let it be there, let the hurt be there, let the sting happen, and you realize you're not the vulnerable little child anymore. It's not going to kill you. It is. You do not have to live in that environment the way the little child did. This is how you protect that little child, who's now your responsibility rather than your parents. And you can begin to integrate with it because you're not that anymore. You are now a spiritually aware, conscious adult that can engage in a conscious level, can recognize when somebody isn't conscious and doesn't want to be, at which point it's just, bless you, namaste, have a nice day. And you act accordingly. But that will come out of wisdom. It'll come out of love and not even hatred. It's love for him. Right? To be honest and with yourself about what you're feeling. Right? That is the most loving thing to do for everybody, even if somebody can't receive it. Right? And this is psychologically call it, you're drawing your boundary. You're actually making a line for yourself, right? Which is the protective coating, right? It's your inner home, the inner space in which the child is safe to play. So hopefully that helps, Lola. God, it breaks my heart when I see things like that. I know I've been through it. I chose people who are not the best for me. Hello, Penny. Thank you for texting me. I realized it right before your text came in that, yes, there was no sound. There's Ava in Poland. Roberto, what the heck do you do with all the info on the 8 videos that I understood and felt completely? I do not know my next step. Well, you're doing it, actually. You are understanding it. There'd be a time when you wouldn't have understood it at all, Roberto. We both can remember that, right? Where this was just a complete and total mystery to you. What you do is immerse yourself in it. That's why I'm doing this training starting in September, to immerse people in it, both for themselves and for others. You dig deeply into it. You make this a practice, right? I refer to inner reconciliation as both a pre-awakening sadhana and a post-awakening sadhana. It's how you get to the point of awakening, and it's also what you do afterwards, right? The reintegrating of yourself, allowing the whole nervous system to adapt, which is what it does, to the true sense of self that is emerging in you, right? That is taking over. That's kind of taking over the territory inside. It's kind of an inner coup, right? So just keep immersing yourself in it. Keep exposing yourself to it. Not just by being in here and in the classes and stuff, but by really watching, becoming vigilant about it, noticing, oh, that is conditioning. That's what it is. And just that recognition, it has the power to actually stop a tsunami in its tracks, right? It's walking on water, stilling the storm. But it also may just keep you afloat as the tsunami is coming, right? But it will be your place of refuge, right? And it is the truth. And because it is the truth, it will eventually assert itself. And in fact, even every time it occurs to you that this is conditioning, that's the truth. That's the true you waking up, right? And seeing what it is. Because before you just didn't know it was. This was just who I am, right? Now you know it's not you. So, yes, take my course, take this training, immerse yourself into it, be in satsang, and start just consciously aligning your human life with what you see to be true. Abide in that truth. That the truth of you that is beyond all of the conditioning. The unconditioned self, which is what you actually are. So hopefully, you're taking the steps, my friend. You don't even realize it. You're taking the steps. You're far more awake than you give yourself credit for. Oh, so glad to know you, Roberto. Merck. Hi, GP and everyone. Great part 8 of 7. Can you say something about solipsism and how we can avoid falling into it? Yeah, easy. Solipsism is this idea nothing exists except for myself, right? Which is actually the heart and soul of non-duality as well. But what's different is in non-duality, the self it's referring to is not the body, it's not this person, it's not the conditioning. Whereas the solipsism is simply this idea that I, this person, am all that exists. there's more to it than that, but that's basically what it boils down to. It's the ego thinking that it's nothing but me, and the way to fall into to not fall into that is to recognize the true self, right? The consciousness that is the only self, that is the only thing that actually is not personal. It doesn't belong to me, right? In fact, there is no me. There's nothing but consciousness, right? So the consciousness that animates this body that's speaking to you now is the same one the same consciousness that is animating that body. So that undifferentiated consciousness is the true self. So the only guarantee you're not going to fall into the various kinds of vagaries and theories and psychological ideas and spiritual ideas, the only way you can guarantee you're not going to fall into them is to know what you actually are. Right? When you know the truth, it's so easy. It's so easy. I can see the message. I'm laughing. I can see the messages coming up here. No sound, no sound. I finally got into, 50 minutes ago? Yeah. So, know who you are. And don't let the mind tell you it's hard. Right? It is hard for the mind. It's very difficult for the mind. It's impossible for the mind, because the mind cannot think of anything other than some kind of an object. You're not an object. Therefore, you can't conceive of yourself. Right? But just because I can't form a picture of me, you know you are. You're experiencing constantly. Every bit of your life is imbued with you. Every experience is perceived by you. You're very real, right? You're just not an object. Consciousness is not a thing, and it is simply the pervasive field of awareness. Are you not aware? That awareness is you. That is the self. And notice you don't need a form for that. We think, the awareness is an attribute of some form. Consciousness is the result of some kind of complex activity in the brain. But consciousness is the big problem in science. To explain consciousness is it's impossible, right? Because it's consciousness trying to explain itself, right? So you get kind of stuck into this loop. I don't know how I got off on that. So anyway, know who you are, right? You won't fall into it. He continues. Hello, Mary. It seems to occur when we have an insight that absolutely everything is just me, but we still feel that this expanded me is still the old personal me with a name and a history, which doesn't really make sense, but the habit of being somebody is ingrained. Yeah, that's all it is the habit of it. There'll still be a sense of self, right? There'll be a sense of a human person there, right? But you're not that, right? And the only thing is that the mind is kind of going back and forth. It lets go. There's this sense of just utter singularity, of total oneness. Everything is me. But then the mind goes back, and it wants to, even saying the word me, when the mind hears the word me, or says the word me, it's referring to some object. That's it. It doesn't matter what the mind does. You are the self, right? Abide there. Don't be concerned that the mind argues about it. It will, right? Because the mind cannot see you. Nobody can see you. Nobody's ever seen you. Nobody's ever seen me. Nobody can see you. Right? So just be present. Abide as the awareness. Abide as the self. Okay? Not somebody trying to get to the self, not somebody that wants the mind to agree, not somebody who thinks they're going in and out of it, because even the going in and out of that sense of unity into a sense of manyness is being watched, is being seen. It's an appearance in front of that which is utterly imperceivable. You cannot see yourself. You can only be yourself. But just feel that. You know you are. Right? Now, the mind will just be wanting to make a person. It was taught to do that. That's actually its nature. That's why I call it the storyteller. It's constantly making up identities. It's making up stories. Right? That's what it does. It creates reality. That is, it creates the experienced reality. Reality and truth are the same to me. So it isn't creating reality. It is creating experience. Right? But that's its job, is to try to define what real is. And it does it through language, through images, through memory. Right? But that's just the process of thinking, which you watch. Right? So we're simply taking the I out of that and bringing the I back to its source until the I dissolves into the source. There ceases to be even an I. Right? There's not an I and other. There's still a subtle duality there. But as you say, the habit of being somebody is ingrained. The habit of being somebody is simply the being somebody, the constantly creating somebody to be, is what the mind does. The habit is identifying with what the mind does. Right? It will, because the moment, you see through this one, I'm not that. Oh, how about this? How about this one? How about this one? Right? That's the self-help treadmill, right? Just a constant, version, 18.3. So hopefully that answers it for you, Mark. And Ava says, yes, agree with Roberto about the video. Sound, unmute. Yay, working sound. Just had to scroll through all of the sounds off. But let's see, there's some people I missed. No sound, awareness. Am I the only one that can't hear? Let's see. This is Life 85. Hi, GP. Hi, this is Life. You're, I don't remember seeing you before. Anyway, enjoy the silent, enjoy the silent opening. It's mime. I'm miming Satsang today. Okay. Hello from France. Hello, Marguerite. So good to see you. Dorte in Denmark. Can be heard now. Yay. There's Russell from Durban, South Africa. Peter, sound on. Thank you. Everybody really liked my 8 videos that start out as SB7. I can't remember where the link is to them. They're here on Facebook. I've got them on. I have them on my in my classroom, in the Om School. It's free. It's there, and it's also a playlist here on my channel. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed already. It's actually quite helpful and very important. So glad you liked that, Rosario. Peter's in Italy. Playan. Hello, Playan. My buddy in Sweden. Being aware of being aware has to be the highest form of meditation. By the way, hello and greetings from Sweden. Yes, it is. Because when you are simply aware of being aware, it's a constant meditation, right? But now the focus of attention is on the awareness itself, right? And what can focus attention other than awareness, right? So it's not one awareness meditating on another awareness. It is the highest sadhana is consciousness meditating on itself, right? Because you have to have consciousness or awareness in order to meditate at all. Right? In that awareness, being aware of being aware, you are dissolving that last sense of duality. where there's a me that has awareness, right, into me as awareness. You are abiding as that. And you'll see it's always consciousness that meditates. It's not the absence of consciousness that meditates. It's consciousness that does everything, right? Everything that happens in and through consciousness. So, great. Play on, great. Hello, Daryl from North Heaven. It's nice up there in North Heaven. Robbie, is there a difference between these types of thoughts? The sensory re-imaging, visual audio senses, touch, taste, alike. Other type that is somehow newer, the voice in the head, the one that narrates, comments, criticizes everything, and can take you or someone else's voice. What do you do with the voice? Allow it to dissipate? Shut it up? Shut it up? And to whom is it speaking? To whom is it speaking? Yeah. Well, you, obviously, right? It's speaking to you about who it thinks you are. It isn't talking about you. So what do you do with the voice? Nothing. Notice that it's just a voice, that it has a bunch of words, but there's nobody there speaking. Right? It's just a voice, right? It's like Siri, or Alexa or Google, right? Siri, how are you today? I'm fine. And Siri will answer in first person, right? And there's nobody there, right? The way the mind is tamed and what's the word? Subdued is to lose interest in what it has to say. When you realize that it's not talking about you, you immediately just lose interest in it, right? And the more you lose interest, the more silly its conversations are, the comments it makes, right? And my mind's not quiet all the time. I'll find myself laughing out loud at something. Where in the world did that come from, right? And to who can see it? Well, only consciousness can be aware of it. Right? It can't exist without consciousness, can it? Right? Nothing can. Right? If you're not conscious, for all intents and purposes, you do not exist. Right? Right? Consciousness and existence are one. So, yes, images and all sorts of things there, and sometimes it can be useful therapeutically. Right? And the more conscious you become, the more the character of these thoughts appear. The more conscious you become, the safer, the more compassionate and loving you are towards yourself and others. And it's in that safe environment that all of the whacked stuff, all of the traumas and the old programs and stuff can be released, and it harmonizes absolutely everything. So you simply recognize that it's not talking about you. When it uses the word I, there's not actually anybody there. This is the mistake. The mind says these things. It says I, and you as consciousness think, oh, that's me. But there's not actually anybody there. It's just the word. Right? When you realize that word I is not referring to you, then the true sense of I, which is prior to the word, begins to merge back into its source, back into the absolute, until even the sense of I dissolves simply into the absolute of being. So to whom is it speaking? Well, it's got to be speaking to you, doesn't it? Right? But there's nobody speaking, right? It's always you, because you're the conscious awareness to which everything appears. What we're doing is simply liberating that conscious awareness from its identification with the thinking, with the mind, with the story. Steffi, hello Steffi. Hi G and everyone, great to be here. Much love from the other side of the planet. Peace and namaste. Steffi is in Germany, which is a good distance from here, yeah. Ava, so it looks I'm the self, even when I do not recognize that, even when I feel it as if I am a person. Yes, just because I'm aware, and I'm aware in every moment. So what can I be? Only self is aware. Ding, 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 ding. You win. You win the grand prize. That's it. Yeah. The mind will have us seeking forever. The wave out on the ocean, traveling thousands of miles, looking for the ocean. The image on the screen, looking for the screen. Right? You are the self. Right? Just trust that. Take it in. Even when the mind is arguing against it, when it's throwing all sorts of doubts out, you're not the doubter. It's just doubting thoughts are present. Right? You are the self. To simply take that in, even when everything in the world is contradicting that, is faith. That's what faith actually is. The perceiving of that which is invisible to the senses. Your senses and the mind in which they are all embedded cannot see you, cannot know you. You are completely unknowable to the mind. But you're knowable to you, but not as thought. Okay? You're aware. That's it. That's the whole secret. That's what all the scriptures were writing about, right? You are that. You always have been. You always will be. Take that in as a fact. Right? And it will do the work of eliminating the rest, everything else. It will eliminate everything unlike itself until there's nothing left but the oneness of being. And then you find that all this is that. You've lost nothing except a thought. Evanescent, fleeting a thought. Sean. Hey, Sean. Oh, by the way, I have to mention, a lot of people have friended me, asked to friend me on Facebook. I'm almost at the limit, so if I don't accept your friend request, it's nothing personal. I just don't have any room. Every now and then I have to go by and get rid of stuff. So if you do and I don't respond, please, it's nothing personal. But please join the group, right? Just facebook.com/groups/GP Walsh. So join the private group if you're not in there, because I answer questions there, and and not just me. There's other people monitoring it, and Evan, who also teaches inner reconciliation with me, is there as well, making comments. So anyway. So I just thought about that because Sean, you sent me a request, and I'm not sure I would be able to accept it. So, GP, thank you for all you do. I highly appreciate how down-to-earth and relatable your teachings are. Question: do we have any meaningful free will on where we place our awareness, or is it all grace? It's... To make the teachings down to earth and relatable and be consistent, people just say there's no such thing as free will, and you throw it out there, and there is no volition, and it's confusing, right? Because we seem to be making choices, right? So I don't want to just kind of throw that out. As a matter of fact, it's an important step in somebody's spiritual growth when that consciousness begins to emerge. Prior to having a sense of consciousness, some degree of awakening, which means the awakening is the moment I begin to see I am more than I think I am, that these thoughts are limiting and don't necessarily have to be there, and that I have been conditioned to a particular way of being, and that condition was arbitrary. I don't have to be that. There's an awakening there, right? Prior to that, you are simply acting out your conditioning. You're an automaton. You're little more than a robot or a trained pet, right? And so there is no choice there. You think you're making choices, right? But all the choices that you are making, you're not actually making. They're simply the habit patterns of the nervous system, nothing more. Jung put it beautifully. He said, I can do as I will, but I cannot will as I will. So prior to some emergence of consciousness, all our friends, our choices, our relationships, our work, our clothes, everything is nothing more than the momentum of conditioning. Once we see conditioning as conditioning, a door begins to open. And all of a sudden now, if I'm able to be with the feelings that I used to fight before, or were so identified with them I held on to them, I now begin to have a completely different relationship with those feelings. And my whole inner world shifts, because now I'm seeing conditioning as conditioning. The moment that happens, a gap begins to open up. I don't automatically begin to fall into the same patterns when the environment triggers something inside of me. There's a gap between the event happening and the reactive pattern. Right? Now, in that space, we have what is fair to call, I can now choose, right? Because if I'm not aware, something happens in the environment, I react. You know, like the doctor hitting your knee with that little, with the little hammer, right? Think you have no choice, right? But now you do, right? So now all of a sudden I can actually choose a different pattern. I can choose a different way. I don't have to react. Right? Now, at first that's hard, right? Because you don't really, because remember, all your decisions prior to that weren't really decisions. They weren't really choices. They were all reactions. And so it can be very disorienting, right? So now at this point, what's informing these choices, right? And it does feel like it's a choice. Oh, I choose to do this instead of that. I'm going to eat the healthy food, not the junk. I'm not going to buy processed food. I'm going to buy fresh fruit and vegetables. I'm going to, what is guiding those choices, right? It's not I'm just choosing. There's an inner light that is seeing something more clearly, right? That inner light is grace, right? And that's now beginning to guide the whole life as it's choosing things. But what's really making the choice, right? Once I'm conscious, I won't choose the worst path. I'll choose the better path. I only choose the worst path when I don't know any better, right? And at first, it's got so much momentum that even when I do know better, it can take a while before that momentum shifts around. I still reach for that, chocolate cake or something, or, or whatever it is, that the new healthy habit. You realize it, right? And the deeper that realization goes, the more that governs the choices that are made, that starts resetting the momentum of the nervous system. So is it really a choice, or is it a recognition of what's true? So it comes out in practical ways in our life as I am choosing this. And we can use those words. And I use those words, right? You can make a choice now, right? Because once you're conscious, you have the option to make choices. But when you look more deeply, you realize that, oh, wait a minute. I'm just becoming more wise. And that's being reflected in what my energy is naturally being drawn to. So you could say, well, it's not really a choice, because nobody consciously chooses anything but the best path for ourselves. Nobody chooses. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I think I'm really going to mess up my life today. Nobody does that. We just ignorantly head in directions that aren't going to end up taking us where we actually want to go, right? So I think that's the best way to put it, that there is a natural energy that is moving the form, that is moving all of the events that you call your life. The more conscious that becomes, the more the motion of life, that energy of life, is governed by an increasing amount of wisdom. Wisdom is self-existent. You don't create it. It's not even really a choice, right? Once you see something is true, it's just true. You don't choose to make it true, right? But you can say, well, but I choose to align myself with it. As I started with the ultimate sadhana, you're choosing to abide as that, right? I can use that word. It's not a problem to use that word. But what's really happening? What's really happening is you're seeing it's that, and that's growing, right? And you're hearing, wait a minute, I already am that. And that brings about a completely different kind of practice. Rather than somebody who's seeking through various means, wait a minute, I already am what I'm seeking, boom, immediately a different kind of practice, a different kind of sadhana begins to emerge, becomes more self-inquiry. Right? So hopefully that answers it for you, Sean. So ultimately you can say, no, there is no choice, but you have to see it as being the fruit of wisdom. You know, in another setting, I might explain at the beginning you don't have any choice because you're totally unconscious. Then you get choice, and then you even let go of having that choice because what are you going to do? Why do I even need to choose truth? It's true. It's true whether I choose it or not. So there it is. Right? So anyway, thank you for that. David and Elaine, beautiful introduction, GP. No matter how many times it's heard, the self never gets tired of being reminded of the self. Yes, by the self. And be the happiness of abiding in this knowing. Thank you deeply. Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah. The self never gets, it's like when you're really in love with somebody, you never get tired of saying, I love you, never get tired of hearing it, right? It's the same. It's the same thing. Only better. The Awakened. Hello, Jonas. The love GP. Hello, all. What an intense weekend. Such beautiful moments and heart openings with fellow beings yesterday evening and yesterday night and morning. Beautiful. Wonderful. Glad to hear that. You have such a big heart. There's Ido. Hello, GP from Bradford, UK. Wonderful. Wonderful. Facebook user. Always grateful to be here with you. Feel home and loved here. Well, it's because you are. Nothing but love here. There's the love train. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. You're most Sifu. Yes, the course we went through our first practice today. It was great. Knowing that we're not alone and we're all together are awesome. Yes, beautiful Penny has organized basically Sangha meetings, right? Talking about inner reconciliation, doing EFT, and the various kinds of techniques I teach as means to that end. So anybody interested in participating in those, you can get in touch with Penny. If Penny, you want to put a link or your email or something, or just get into the group. Yeah, it's Facebook/groups/GP Welsh, because she announces everything there. Yeah, she's even allowed to post things that aren't monitored. She's free to just post whatever she wants. Jay, I assume you still show some interest in external knowledge, such as being up to date with current and reading books. Has awakening changed that process a little bit? You sound so articulate with how you explain this with real-life comparisons. Yeah, I do. I listen to stuff. I love the recordings from Samanera Jayasara, the Australian and New Zealand woman who lives in a monastery, and just does these recordings of great works. And my current favorite is the Ribu Gita, which I both got as an ebook to read and listen to her. I've also reading the book When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate, talking about the effect of childhood trauma on health. Because, obviously a part of what I do is therapeutic in helping people and in teaching other people how to do it. And so, the big difference now is, I suppose, is that before I was learning to gain awakening, now I'm staying up to keep abreast of what people are thinking about for the sake of teaching, right? Because I mean, if I was still using the same language of the 60s or 50s or 100 years ago, it wouldn't be relevant, right? So I keep my fingers in social media and all of these things. Plus, it's genuinely interesting, right? It's interesting from the point of view of understanding and teaching. It's interesting, and it's really interesting to see how the human mind, human consciousness is awakening. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the idea that you were dealt your genetic hand at birth, and that was it. That was what was believed when I was in school, when I was a kid in school, in high school. It wasn't just conditioning; it's what you were. This is you, right? That's it, buddy. Hope you like it. Have a nice day. The whole idea of inner transformation, the whole idea of neuroplasticity, the mind, the subtle relationship between mind, body, and spirit, was new. It had it before in New Thought, which was the end of the 19th century. Jung was skirting around it. It's been known in India by yogis forever, but it was relatively new here. So just watching, when I was born, we didn't have a TV. So the difference of the world I was born into and this one, and fortunately I've kept my curiosity about it. And also, for me, awakening wasn't this great flash and that was it. It was something that grew and developed over a very long period of time, and through a bunch of different practices. So I ended up gaining a lot of knowledge, which has helped me to teach. It's helped me to be able to articulate things, stories and metaphors and all sorts of things, to teach something which is extremely subtle, right? And cannot be spoken of directly. I can't speak of the self direct. I can't describe you. How can I? I can't describe you, right? My job is to simply get you to stop describing yourself and just sink into that sense of presence awareness, and that's what you are, right? It's that, and you can take any form, right? And then you can embrace the form that you are in this moment, right? It's temporary, it's transient, it's going to come and go, and that's what it's supposed to do. And so you're not attached to it, and you're not averse to it, right? I don't have to have a different set of circumstances in my life, right? Nobody needs a different set of circumstances. So that greed, that avarice, that grabbiness, that attachment can just fall away, and the beautiful flow of life, it can happen. So it's an awakening that sinks into the heart, right, and not just the head. For most, it starts in the head. It starts. I don't want to say the head. It starts as insight, right? Something grabs your attention. Something seems true, but it connects on a level. It's not just thought true. It's not just reasoned. Something inside goes, yes. This is so. There's an inner agreement happening, and then little by little, it just sinks more deeply in, and it will draw to you whatever you need for whatever purpose this particular form is to serve. And right now, this form is serving this purpose, right? Right. But the animating principle, right, that is giving birth to all of the thoughts and words and teachings and pointers, right, is not in this body. Right? Nisargadatta said, "These words arise from the golden womb from which all comes. Right? Because creation is not an event that took place in time. It is an event. It is not an event at all. It is a spontaneous arising. Every word that comes out of this mouth is a spontaneous arising of creation. The questions coming off of your fingers are arising from that same place. Right? There's just this idea that there's a person, right, asking questions and answering questions. There is no person here. There's not even a me that's hearing and speaking. There's no me at all. That sounds weird, I know. Right? And which is why I invest so much energy and time in inner reconciliation, preparing the ground to understand that what we had called the self is actually just a bunch of conditioned patterns. It has no more of a self than Siri does. Right? And when that is seen, you recognize that you are that golden womb from which the universe has emerged. That's what you are, right? And that is what is speaking. That is what is using the skillful means. Every thought, every gesture, every pointer is that. Right? The spirit that animates it is not confined to the body. It is not confined to any words. It's not confined to any era. It's not confined to any costume whatsoever. But it can take on any costume. Even the long-haired old guy sitting in front of a garden. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, so don't deny your interests, Jay. Just don't let them get into your head, right? Because we've talked about, different kinds of traditional Vedantic teachers, Shankar and others. You mentioned another one recently. I can't remember what was right now. It's okay to have those interests and to pursue them, right? The only thing is you're not pursuing knowledge. You're really pursuing wisdom. And the whole point of scriptures and teachings and meditation is to cultivate within you that wisdom until it culminates in the total merging with the wisdom. So wisdom is no longer a you that possesses it. Wisdom is all there is. And the sage is not somebody with wisdom. The sage is wisdom appearing as a human being. Beautiful. So humanness, says Mary Sykes, so humanness is a representative of consciousness. It is consciousness, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Music and the song, can you take them apart? Conceptually we can, right? The mind will try to do that. Oh, this is that and this is that. But can you really take them apart? Can there be a song without music or music without a vehicle of expression? Can you have a pianist without a piano, right? You cannot have consciousness without the manifestation of it, and the manifestation cannot be there of its own because it's a manifestation of something real, right? So all this is the manifestation of what is the self. It is all the self. Everything is the supreme being. It's from the Ribhu Gita, one of my current favorites. Everything is the supreme being. It is all Brahma. It is all Shiva. It is all God. There are not two. This is the embracing of humanity. It is not an escape from it. It's a transcendence that subsumes everything less than it. It does not rid itself of anything. Absolutely everything is God, okay? Is the self. And so, yes, the embracing, I know you skipped ahead, yes, humanness is consciousness known. It is pure emptiness known. The Heart Sutra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. They are not two. Your humanness is divine, right? It is only the mind that draws the distinction between heaven and earth, between the divine and the human, between the essential and the manifestation. The manifestation is only there because of the very nature of the essential, right? It's not like the essence God decided he was going to create something one day. I think I'll create time. How do you do that if you're in time, right? When did you do that? Because before there wasn't any time, right? So it is not, even in the beginning is not the beginning. It's in the most essential. The whole story of creation is not time. It's not 7 days. It is from the pure void awareness, let there be light, right? Pure light. Out of this, the pure nature of being itself, all creation has and is coming. It wasn't a moment in time. It is now. You are that. You always have been, you always will be, right? There's just a thought that is identified with the form, turned the form into an object that has a beginning and a middle and an end. But there is no object that has a beginning and a middle and an end. It is all happening right now. It is being spontaneously generated, like the images on a screen, right? The movie screen. Right? They're not actually coming from it or going anywhere. They're appearing spontaneously because of what's going in front of the projector. I'm saying with your computer screen right now. It is being generated in this moment. This is the true nature of creation. This is the creation of the infinite. This is the timeless creation, which gives birth to the experience of time. Right? But its essence is timeless. But you can't separate the two. You are that. You are God knowing herself. And behold, everything she saw, it was very good. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Patricia! Hi, and much love from Los Angeles. So good to see you. So good to see you. Patricia and I have known each other for quite a while now, I think, yeah. Sue in South Africa. Nice to be with you all again. So glad you're here. E-cart. E-cart Toli. I like that. Randomly stumbled upon this right now. Never heard of you. YouTube recommends this. Oh, wonderful. I'm going through awakening now. It's a very difficult period. Paradoxical things happening in life. Some unknown force is just not letting me consume foods obtained with violence. I get nightmares and experience demons at night. I get meat cravings, but fish is the only meat I can eat, else I get horrible darkness in my experience. Not conscious. It's just happening without any control. Doing my own sadhana for 11 years now. Beautiful. Yes. Well, what you're feeling is a higher awakening has taken place. And for you, that higher awakening is taking the form of, I can't do this anymore. Right? I just can't eat meat anymore. I'll tell you what happened to me. I was reading a book called Diet for a New America, written by John Robbins. A long time ago. The book's been out a very long time. This was I read it in the 90s. And it was extremely disturbing. I mean, it shows the incredible intelligence of all these critters, and the horrible reality that is animal agriculture. Now, I read about it. It was hard to read the book, right? But it was, but there was still this guy. I grew up in the Midwest. It wasn't a meal unless there was meat there, right? And I knew it's like this isn't good. It's also not healthy. It's full of chemicals and hormones and and all sorts of things. They're even fed genetically modified corn. They're not even supposed to eat corn, and they have to put in special. I mean, the whole picture was there, but I was still struggling over it. Well, one morning, early morning, I get up. I'm up. I had someplace I had to go. It's like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got on my motorcycle. I drove a motorcycle back then when I lived I'm in New York City, and one block north of Canal Street. South of Canal Street is Chinatown. So I get on my motorcycle, right? Motorcycle. I'm not in a car, right? You know, a nice little environment with music going. I'm in a motorcycle. I pull up behind this flatbed truck, right? So I'm just like inches, a couple feet away. And there in the flatbed truck was exactly what John Robbins had talked about in the book. Because they take live chickens to Chinatown, where they kill them, they pluck them, they hang them in the window for sale. And there they were, these chickens, live, crammed so tightly in these little crates they couldn't move. And my heart just broke. And I said, okay, I get it. I haven't eaten meat since. It's 25 years now, maybe longer. Yeah, it was 1995. Yeah, 86, right around there. Been about 25 years. And yes, so it's okay. You're feeling that darkness, and you need to. We all need to, right? This is not how we should be. This is not loving. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for the planet. There is no advantage to it whatsoever, and it is unsustainable. And we don't need to do it, right? There are alternatives that are very, very healthy. But what's really beautiful about this, Eckhart, is this is just happening quite spontaneously for you. And I urge you not to be critical of others, to not be harsh on yourself or others, but instead just really embrace the transformation that's taking place where you simply can't do it, right? Your awakeness has taken to you a place where your whole energy system is aligning itself with what you see to be true. And this is the fruit of your sadhana, right? And it will continue to grow. And just allow that to continue to grow, and don't be disturbed if nightmares come, experience, demons at night. It's not a problem, right? Don't make a big deal out of it, right? It's just the residual energy, and as long as you just accept it, yeah, it's there. It's okay. Don't make a deal out of it. Don't make it something you have to get rid of or not, and it will fade away all by itself, because it cannot be sustained without you engaging with it in some way, either by holding on to something or trying to push it away, to become completely empty and open. Just allow it to be a pure allowing. Awakeness is simply awake, right? It has no preference for what it is awake to. So it is just open-heartedly allows everything. And it will just sink in, and you'll find that those things will begin to dissipate. And you'll have yourself a new level of freedom. And this is happening everywhere. It's happening so many places. I mean, when I stopped eating meat 25 years ago, it wasn't brand new, obviously, 25 years ago, but now it's everywhere, right? Everywhere. I mean, it's just plant-based is everywhere. And so we're still feeling our way through all of that, making it balanced and the like. But you're already there, and so you just keep following that natural instinct, and it will not lead you astray, as it hasn't. And the ultimate awakening is when you awaken to the fact that you have always been that which you are awakening to. You've never been dark. You've never been in nightmares and demons. These are all just been transient experience you've had. Notice that you have always been simply aware of what's happening. And you only get caught when you think you shouldn't be aware of what is happening. When you turn on the light, you experience whatever's there in the light, right? It may be beautiful and pristine and clean, or it may be horrible and ugly and right? But the light's on, right? And in that light of pure awareness, everything becomes harmonized. Your entire life will gravitate towards it as it is. And that's exactly what you're experiencing. So, wonderful. Wonderful. And welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome. So good to have you here. Virginia says, I enjoy Samanari Jayasara also. Yes, she's wonderful. I highly recommend her. I was actually going to be doing some of my own readings from different things. And you put some music to it. And then when I heard her, I said, I don't need to. She does such a marvelous job that I don't need to. She's got that covered. Penny, yay. Thank you so much, Sifu. Friends, come and join the course. Yeah, I agree. If you want to learn more about the course, I'll put this up. That's where you can find out more about it. There's a whole page, and that links to a page where you can sign up. And as I always like to point out to people, if you can't afford it, contact me. I always try to work it out with people if they really, really want to be there, and and it's expensive. And I have people that I help out. There's people where the cost of this course is a month's pay in some countries, right, with the exchange rate. So I'm not here to get rich. I'm here to do everything I can to bring you all to that sense of peace. But I gotta keep the lights on. I gotta keep satsang going. So until the day where we don't need this current economic system, I'll be asking for help. So that's how you find out more about it. Ava says, Dear G, sometime one sentence told in a bit different way, and now I even don't remember the sentence you have told, makes turning the key in the lock. And I felt such a release that I do not need any striving, any coming back to myself. Thank you 1,000 times and more. You're so welcome, Ava. Yeah, you keep saying it. I keep saying it. The same thing, different ways. But I do say the same thing all the time. I am a broken record. It's the same song. I just play it on different instruments. And eventually it goes, yes, 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 of course. Of course that's true. Of course this is who I am. Right? And I'm just going to keep emphasizing it, because it doesn't matter if the mind doubts. You are that. It doesn't matter if every thought you have denies it or disagrees with it. It cannot change the fact that it's the truth. You cannot escape the truth, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you even think you're experiencing it or not. It is what you are. And abide as that. Take that to heart, and it'll take over. And that taking over to subdue the mind, right, is grace. Right? Your seeing is the heart and soul of it. The rest is grace. It takes care of absolutely everything else. So, thank you, Ava. I'll take this off the screen now, so it's not annoying. But hope you guys will join me there. Nazarene, hello. Hi, G. If we realize who we are, the seeking is over. Then it is just realizing in this moment I am, then it is just realizing in this moment I'm in false self or true self. You're in the sense of false self or true self. You always are the true self. The thought, I am the false self, is just a thought. That's all it is, right? And it's just been believed, so it seems to have some teeth in it, right? If we realize who we are, the seeking is over. Yes. Yes, the seeking is over. Right? But it's become there's a bit of a habit there. We can't say, okay, I'm not going to seek anymore, because obviously that's not truthful. You're going, okay, there's a seeking energy, and the seeking is needed as long as it's needed, right? But I recognize that seeking has an end, right? It isn't perpetual. It isn't for perpetuity. It has an end. It has a specific function. And that function is to continually bring my attention back to who I am. And the recognition that even though I don't see it, I don't know it, my mind disagrees with it, I am the self. This must be what I am. Because if the truth is true, it has always been true. It doesn't become true, right? It isn't false and then becomes true. It can't be that way. Because then it would just be another fluctuating idea. It would be a belief, right? So if it's true, it's always been true. So if it is true that I am the self, I have always been the self. And anything that says I'm not isn't true. Simple as that. Right? And it is just a thought that says, you're close. You're really close, right? And so that is the practice, abiding as that, right? It doesn't mean, okay, I'm going to stop seeking now. No. You're going to be seeking in the right way. You're going to be seeking to recognize that which always has been. And let that just sink into your heart. And it will, inevitably, right? Because it is what you are. Jay, yes, I do not want it to get to my head. LOL, that wouldn't help anyone. But if it helps to be more articulate with explaining something, everybody could have a more interesting conversation. LOL. But heck, who cares if there isn't a good conversation? It's always refreshing to stay out of the head and just be observing internally. As Sadhguru said, nobody knows their own flaws until they turn in. It isn't comfortable, but so liberating to find all the trash has been buried away for years. Yeah, it isn't comfortable. It isn't comfortable to recognize, oh dear, ooh, oh, I really did that, didn't I? Oh my God, right? It's not a happy moment, but it is a happy moment. Because the very fact that you see it is awakening. Right? It's when you don't see it that it's a problem, right? The world is in the state it's in right now because people don't see it. Right? And so we keep acting it. We keep acting unconsciously and suffer for it. Right? Suffer terribly for it. But it's all falling apart. Right? So it's not a denial of intelligence. It's not a flat denial of intellect, right? The intellect is subordinate to the reality of your being. It is a tool, right, that allows us to do this, right? But it is not the be all and end all, right? It can come and go. A period of just being quiet. No thoughts whatsoever. Wonderful. And if there are thoughts, also wonderful. It can all just come and go. And you are just continuing to recognize who you are. Right? And it will do the rest. including become articulate, become precise. The more you understand something, the easier it is to explain, because you see the nuances, the subtleties of it, and you can relish in it. It becomes fun. It is so subtle. Right? Anyway, love you, Jay. Okay, here is 8 cause 8. 8 cause 8. Not be complete unless I achieve this goal. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I see. Sorry. Best regard from Holland. Oh, wonderful. My mind is completely consumed by planning for future extended travels, something I have desired for years, and feels like my life will not be complete unless I achieve this goal. It is frustrating me that conceptually I know that I should be only focused on the present moment and should not let my mind get so confused by planning. Okay. Let's be nice to ourselves, okay? Let's be gentle with yourself. It's perfectly natural to plan. I have plans, you know. I'm already looking forward to what I'm going to be doing when my lease here expires. I think I'm going to go on the road for a bit. I'm looking into doing it. My passport is going to expire soon, so I've got to get that redone. The only problem is when you think somehow you're not going to be happy if you don't, right? So when you say, I know I should be only focused on the present moment, I disagree, right? Because the moment you start making demands on yourself like that, I should be this, I should be that, you can just feel, I'm a rebellious character. If you tell me I should do something, I'm not going to do it. Right? I don't have to do that. I can be a bratty little kid, right? So I want you to cherish your goals. I want you to cherish these dreams. Yes, you want to feel the fullness of life, right? The problem is that we get so attached to that we create suffering for ourselves. And it's just kind of this strange thing, right? You are letting go and holding on at the same time. You're cherishing it. You say, yeah, I really do want to have that experience, right? And there may be even energy moving you in that direction to have that experience. And it's great, right? I want you to have those experiences. You should have those experiences, right? Now, let go of needing those in order to be whole. And instead, recognize, let the desire of the experiences be there, and simultaneously allow yourself to have it or not have it, right? That ends suffering, right? And paradoxically will open the door to having experiences. But they'll no longer be burdensome. They'll no longer be an act of desperation. They'll very, very naturally unfold. And you'll find yourself having these kinds of beautiful experiences right now. Yeah, some will be big. Some will just be this moment, right? A conversation with a friend, sitting alone, in a coffee shop, having a coffee or reading a book, taking a walk. All of that now, because it has been divorced from that intensity. This moment now becomes pleasant. It becomes pleasurable, right? And of course, that's what opens us up to have different kinds of experiences, and opens us up to the complete. We don't need to have experiences, and therefore I can, right? Without harming myself, without something getting, without creating any kind of suffering or difficulty for yourself. He adds, I guess I must be more disciplined with my mind and resist these urges to control the future. No, don't twist yourself into a pretzel, right? This isn't some kind of strange yoga posture you have to get into. Don't try to watch yourself instead. Watch the mind. You don't have to force it to do anything, right? You don't have to force yourself to be really disciplined, all right? Oh, I'm gonna learn this now, right? You're gonna, the veins popping out of your neck because you're meditating so hard. No need. No need. Just watch. Gently. Very gently. Just watch. Say, I really do want to have this experience, and I also want to be free. So notice, there's no conflict there. Right? If I don't hold tightly on something or try to push something away or try to be somebody, my whole body can relax. I can just kind of be present, and I can cherish my desire to grow spiritually, right? And at the same time, cherish my desire to have meaningful, significant experiences, right? And that is all the transformation that you're going to need, right? It'll very gently take you the rest of the way. Lovely. Let's see. Virginia said, I saw the documentary Seaspiracy on Netflix. There was another one, Cowspiracy. There was another, that one, in March, and stopped eating meat and seafood. Very good. Very good. Yeah. I don't tell anybody to do anything. There are no prerequisites for awakening, right? But your natural awakening is going to very naturally bring you into the most loving relationship with the rest of life, right? To the point where you simply can't harm anything because it's your nature. You don't make yourself have to do anything, like 8 cause 8. You don't have to make yourself do anything, right? You can just let yourself naturally, gently grow into your fullness, into your wholeness. Eckhart says, thank you so much. You're very welcome. I hope that was helpful for you. Mary, let's see. Love your question. Roberto, appreciating Eckhart's question and your answer, GP. Very good. Robert Hill, hi G. Lately, I really feel that I'm a sinner, and I feel that I am the one that chose to turn away from God. It's like He is in my grasp, but often I make the wrong decisions. How to reconnect? Well, there is nothing you can do to take away the love of God. It is completely open and forgiving at all times. It has no requirements. It has no prerequisites, right? Even this idea that you have to believe this or that, you have to. God is pure love. Period. End of story. Right? And all of us have these conditioned patterns that do things things that we don't mean to and that we do. I mean, what did St. Paul say? The evil how do you put it? The good that I would, I do not. Yet the evil that I do not, that I do. Right? It's this perplexity. We're at a state in our growth and maturity wherein we have these conflicting energies within us, right? Where we are waking up. We're coming back to the truth of being. We're coming back to the all-loving God, right? That is washing away all sins. That is revealing all the mistakes, growing the wisdom that is clearly discerning, right? And part of that process is seeing, oh my God, I did that. oh, I should have done that. I should, right? That seeing, right, is the liberation. That is the awakening, right? That is the revealing. Right? Now, you don't need to beat yourself up for that, right? Instead, just thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for showing me that. And it will very naturally just alter. It'll just renew you, right? The other stuff will fall away naturally. You don't have to do really anything. You don't have to. God is love. It is not some being that loves. It is love itself. Therefore, it is total grace. It is total embrace, right? And that sense of I am a sinner, right? Which we were all laid upon us, right? In the West. But it's not really you. This is the real nature of forgiveness. Father, forgive them. They do not know what they're doing. And that word forgiveness means not pardon, but you have been founded not guilty. You have been vindicated. In our ignorance, we've been harsh. We've been selfish. We've been cruel. We've been lied, cheated, right? Right? Because we were ignorant. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. When you've come to see what you have done, you go, oh my God. And that's the grace. And you just turned back like the prodigal son, prodigal daughter. And what happens is the father says, okay, now I tossed away. My child has been come home. So, wow, lovely. So, there is no sin. There is no sinner. There is only ignorance, what is it? Ignorance, delusion, and greed. I've once seen that all they do is create suffering. You turned away from it, and you turned yourself back towards the pure, loving. I can't even think of a name to give it. Anyway, love your question, Robert Hill. And let's see, Ikazi, this is the first time I've ever heard of you. I cannot believe how this has come into my awareness today so randomly. Thank you for this amazing satsang. You're very welcome. Thank you. So glad you're here. Hi, G. Where I really struggle is with suppression and chronic fatigue. Wow, it's a big one, and I'm really understanding. I'm actually a little tired, as you can tell. I'm actually quite more tired than I normally have. But let me see if I can. Struggle and chronic fatigue. What's happening is depression is simply the whole the nervous system. In order to keep you. Wow. To keep you safe, what it tries to do is basically shut everything down. Okay? When we're young, we're so full of life and we want to experience things, but when we keep getting slammed, we get kept being not able to actually allow ourselves to express ourselves, to be alive. It just kind of, everything just kind of collapses. And eventually, if that happens deep enough, we give up. We don't think we can do anything, and that's what people experience as depression. And the answer to that is, first off, know that this is what has happened. It's not your problem. It's not your fault. It's not, you're not broken in any way, right? And start to start looking towards your own. Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, right? Even if when you go to feel something, you're completely. It's like you can't feel anything. That's okay, right? Just to be willing to be present with what you are feeling, exactly as you are feeling it, without any judgment or an attempt to change anything. Just be present. That's all you have to do. And I'm going to leave it go for that right now because it's such a big subject. And as you can tell, I'm actually running out of steam, and I need to rest right now. So anyway, I'm sorry I couldn't enter that respond to that better. But just be gentle with yourself, right? Don't try to force yourself. Don't try to beat yourself up. Just notice that this is what has happened. This is the place your nervous system has gotten stuck, and just be incredibly loving and passionate. Gentle with yourself. This is really funny. I'm just kind of like. Anyway, okay, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I have run out of steam. Thank you all. Until next time, love you all. Bye-bye.